Welcome to lesson 1-4. This is going to be a short little lesson on problem solving. So with problem solving, there is a 4-step process that you should follow. Now, you don't have to always, write out every single step, and when you're solving word problem stuff, this is at least things that you should think through. So first off, you need to identify the question that you're trying to answer. Because if you don't know what it is you're trying to answer, you're not going to know how to approach the problem. Second, you need to identify the information that you will need and the relationships you will use in order to answer the question. So, okay, great. I figured out what it is I'm trying to answer. Now I need to figure out what information do I need in order to answer that. Then you can create a plan and solve the problem. Usually this creating a plan will be in the way of maybe drawing a diagram, writing an equation, something like that. And then you're going to actually use your plan to solve the problem and determine the answer. So, we have an example here. A recipe for zucchini muffins states that it yields 12 muffins with 250 calories per muffin. You instead decide to make mini muffins, and the recipe yields 20 mini muffins. If you eat 4, how many calories will you consume? So, the recipe tells us how many calories are in a single muffin. But we decided to make these muffins smaller. So we have more muffins, but we have the same amount of total calories because it's still the same recipe. We just made smaller muffins. So we need to figure out how many calories are in each mini muffin, and then we can figure out for a total of 4. So we want to figure out first the total calories in the recipe. Well, we know the recipe originally makes 12 muffins, each with 250 calories. So you're going to multiply those two together to figure out that there's a total of 3,000 calories in the recipe. Now, we got to figure out how many calories are in each mini muffin now. They told us it's 250 calories per regular muffin, but we made minis, so we need to know how many they have. So we take our 3,000 and divide by the 20 mini muffins that we make. And that tells us there are 150 calories per mini muffin. They're saying that we're eating 4 mini muffins, so how many calories will we consume? So, it's 150 calories times 4 mini muffins comes to a total of 600 calories consumed. All right, next example. A patient is to receive medicine of 0.2 grams daily by mouth. This medicine is available in 100 milligram tablets. How many 100 milligram tablets should the patient take? Okay, so important to keep in mind here with your conversions. 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams. So we need to convert this grams into milligrams. That way we can figure out, okay, how many of these tablets does our patient need? Because they only got to take 0.2 grams, but our tablets are only in milligrams. So we got to figure out how to, make that make sense. So we're going to go back to do some dimensional analysis like we did previously. So I'm going to have my 0.2 grams. Now, I was told here that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. So I'm going to put grams on the bottom of my fraction. That way it cancels out with these grams and leaves me with milligrams. Grams cancel. 0.2 times 1,000 ends up being 200 milligrams needed. So this is how much medicine our patient needs. They need 200 milligrams. Well, if the tablets are 100 milligrams each, we're going to then divide 200 by 100, and that tells us that our patient needs to take 2 tablets a day. All right, another medical question here. We have a patient, and they're to take 800,000 units of a medicine. This medicine is available in 250 milligram tablets. How many 250 milligram tablets should the patient take? And then they make a little note here that the label says 250 milligrams is equal to 400,000 units. So we need 800,000 units, and these tablets are each 400,000 units. So we're going to just simply divide them. Now, you could type this in your calculator, or another way you can think about this is when you make this fraction of 800,000 over 400,000, when you have zeros vertical of each other in a fraction like this, you can cancel them out. So we can cancel those, and those. That leaves us with just 8 divided by 4, which is 2. What's happening here is that since these are in base units of 100,000s, we're able to just reduce it down because we could cancel out those and those because they're all just zeros. So it's actually really just 8 divided by 4, which ends up being 2 tablets. All right, last example here. The Top Hat restaurant serves 12 dinners from a 5-pound pork roast. To serve 18 dinners, what size pork roast is needed? So for 5 pounds, they get 12 dinners, but they need 18 dinners. So we got to figure out what size they need. This goes back to our percent proportion that we've been using. And doesn't necessarily, you can do proportions with stuff other than the percents. So I mean, I say percent, but there's 90% in this problem. But it's still the idea of proportions and rates like we did before. So it's not really particular here which way you set up your proportion. I did dinners over roast. So we know we get 12 dinners out of a 5-pound roast. So we need 18 dinners out of how many pounds? So you're going to cross multiply. 12 times x is 12x. 5 times 18 is 90. Divide both sides by 12, and we figure out that we need a 7.5-pound pork roast.